Have you ever had the experience of being alone, where you feel alone? Maybe you were sitting at a table and you were by yourself and no one came to sit with you. Or maybe you get invited to a social situation and you don't know anyone there. And it doesn't seem like they're all that interested in you. Who is there? Or maybe you get lost driving or in the woods or whatever, and you can't find your way and you're all by yourself. Or maybe you lost your job and you're struggling to make ends meet, or maybe not even making ends meet, and you feel alone. Or maybe you really, really want something, and it seems like you're the only one that doesn't have it. We can feel alone in so many different circumstances, but I think we especially feel alone when we're suffering. When we're suffering. Whether emotionally, psychologically, physically. And that feeling of loneliness kind of reaches a pinnacle when we come face to face with death, with our mortality. Because that moment, death, can seem so isolating. Like, who could possibly know what that experience is like as you're experiencing it? So where do you turn? Where do you go when you feel alone? When you feel all alone? Sometimes when you and I feel alone, we can be tempted to pour ourselves into distractions. Like, if I just keep myself busy enough, or maybe I go into wine, women, song. I just throw myself into bodily pleasure, or I throw myself into work, or I throw myself into a hobby, or I go on one more vacation, or I subscribe to one more podcast, or get that one new thing on Amazon to fill the void. To try to fill the void. And if you're anything like me, if you've tried to fill that void with anything but God, you know it doesn't work. You know it does not work. It does not last. And sometimes it's such a mystery. Sometimes suffering actually is such a gift because it helps us confront our inner poverty, our inner emptiness. Like, whoa, I've actually been running away from things. I actually haven't been attending to something really important. That certainly happened to me when I got pneumonia. I had to confront really dark things in my heart. And probably the pneumonia actually helped me do it. I wish no one would get pneumonia, but God brought good out of it. You and I, where do we turn when we feel all alone? What if we turned to God? What if we turn to God when we feel alone? Especially when you're suffering. We actually get two pictures in the gospel of how we can turn to God when we're suffering. One of them is what we're not supposed to do, and the other one is a good example. Jesus is crucified, and on either side of him are criminals, and one of them says to him, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be the Savior? Save yourself and us from this suffering." And the other one says, hey, he is the Savior. Remember me when you come into your kingdom. Recently, I was on a retreat, and one of the speakers was a deacon, and he super provocatively was sharing how his conception of God and the Savior had changed over time. Previously, he had pictured the Savior more like Superman, where when you're suffering, he flies in, rescues you, flies away. Like, I'm suffering, Jesus, come. He flies in. I mean, if he needs to hop a building, he can do it in a single bound. He takes me to a safe place, and then he's off again. And he so provocatively challenged us to say, I see it differently now. That actually, your suffering is not the worst evil. He thought there was something worse. Your loneliness. And so he started to see that actually what Jesus wants to do is when you're suffering, he wants to be with you in your suffering. Are you suffering now? He wants to be with you in it. He doesn't want you to feel alone. He doesn't want you to think you're isolated, that you're completely helpless. Listen to how Jesus responds to this person. He says, remember me. And how does he respond? Today you will be with me. Today you will be with me in paradise. You see, Jesus wants to be with you in every circumstance of your life, the good times and especially the times when you suffer. You know what's amazing is after Jesus rises from the dead, before he ascends into heaven, he says something like this to the apostles, "Behold, I am with you until the end of the age." We even start Mass like this. The Lord be with you. The Lord be with you. And there's one very special way that Jesus is with us because he wants to be with us. There's one very special way, and that is in the Holy Eucharist, Holy Communion. The body and blood, soul and divinity of Jesus himself, with you, present bodily. And we are so blessed here at St. Peter's to not only receive Jesus into us so that he's with us inside of us, but even to adore him in adoration. We have been blessed for over 20 years, I believe, to have a Eucharistic adoration chapel, almost perpetual adoration, 24/7 or so, where any time of the day you can go be with God. In the good times, in the bad times, in the ordinary times, in the extraordinary times. If you've never been to our chapel, it's so beautiful. It's peaceful. How you get to it is really easy. You just go through this door, there's a little hallway, you go through the next door, and then you take a left. And right before the security doors, you go another left inside to the library. And then in the library, through the stained glass window doors, is the chapel. We would love for you to visit it. There will be an open house after Mass today. If you've seen it, why not see it again? If you've never seen it, why not see it for the first time? At the end of your pews, if you can all take a look at the end of your pews, and please pass them to the middle, there is a card to sign up for an hour of adoration. Eucharistic adoration chapels are only possible because people like you, so many people from our parish, have generously, sacrificially, so perseveringly, faithfully committed to an hour a week so that Jesus Christ is never left alone. We couldn't actually have the chapel for visitors unless there were committed adorers like you. And so after the homily, we'll give you a brief minute to fill out the card for more information. Maybe you're a morning person and you love those quiet hours of the morning. Why not, once a week, spend one of those quiet hours in the morning with Jesus in the chapel? Maybe you're a night person, like all sane people. Just kidding. I'm a night person. Okay, maybe you're a night person, and you love the quiet hours of the night. Maybe you're free during the day because you're retired or your work schedule allows for it, and you want to come. Why not spend one of those hours with Jesus? Jesus Christ is the Prince of Peace. He is the Prince of Peace. And anyone who's ever gone to an adoration chapel, you don't even have to be a Catholic. Anyone who's ever gone knows what I'm talking about. It is so peaceful. So peaceful. Are you suffering? Do you feel alone? Are you full of joy? Or anywhere in between? Jesus is inviting you to spend time with him. And when you do, you will fall in love. And everything that seemed way heavy, like it was going to crush you, will get a little bit lighter. And the joys that you wanted to share, when you share them with God, he's not a thief. He'll make it deeper. And so, I invite you, Father Bodine and I invite you to take some time to prayerfully consider signing up for our chapel, visiting our chapel. You will never regret it.